Hello YouTube, greetings from the LazyEyebrowReviewer to a review of epic proportions. Yes, this time I'm actually covering a figure hot off the press. Well, sort of. It's a month or two late, but at least it's months and not years, right? Yes, this is the review for the highly anticipated Decepticon Leader version 2. And this time, instead of taking 2 weeks, they took 10 years to make it. That makes sense, right? So then let's jump into the review for Takara's MP-36 Masterpiece Megatron. The first MP in a while on here to not be a KO. How about that? Unlike most of my reviews, we're starting off with the box for some reason. The box is big, the box is large, the box itself practically makes a statement. On the back we see various pictures of all the stuff you can do with this guy. Stuff we'll get into in a bit. For box size comparison, MP Megatron. A figure the box already gives you a size comparison for. And look, it's accurate. And the box for MP Ironhide tracks an Inferno, whose review links can be found right... so yeah. Anyway, enough box talk. Let's have our subject matter drop on in and we'll talk about this Decepticon later. This is MP-36 Masterpiece Megatron. Is he amazing? Yes. Should you get him? Yes. Is that all you need to know? Absolutely. This has been the LazyEyebrowReviewer. Okay, for real. I know you all came here for more than that, so first things first, in standard review fashion, let's cover alt mode first. Given that this particular figure came from Big Bad Toy Store and therefore has an orange plug glued in the barrel, it's not hard to guess what he turns into. And since this review would be crazy long if I included the transformation and didn't tweak the script, for this one review there is a separate video specifically dedicated to the long transformation that this guy is, and you can find it in the description. All 7 minutes of it. And you can thank my wife for it not being in here.
You're welcome.
Otherwise, gun mode. And what a gun mode! While not a licensed Walther P-38, this is a pretty close representation of one. And does it ever feel mighty fine in hand. What's crazy about this is that he's smaller than a Polyon, so he feels natural. And what's so crazy about that is, the bot mode becomes the biggest of all the Masterpiece-styled Megatrons. Other details to gun mode include working trigger and safety switch. And while it's not silver but more of a gray, it still looks aesthetically great. Though it does make it look more toy and less gun, which I'm also okay with. What I'm kind of on the fence about is all these stupid panel lines. Remember back to this abomination and how we all gave it 10 metric tons of flack for being a train wreck? Can someone please explain to me why this guy gets an instant pass for gun mode? Ah well, it's not like it really matters in the end. We all got this guy for one reason, and the alt mode is just a perk. As for other perks of the gun mode, let's talk accessories. Megatron here comes with a silencer long barrel, a stock, and a scope. Now as mentioned before, this did come from Big Bad Toy Store, and as such he comes with an orange tip glued in the barrel of the gun and the silencer barrel. And while the site does say that he can transform, no problem with these modifications made in place, it says zippity-doo-dah about whether this thing can use those accessories. Which is kind of a pain, because the orange plug that they were legally mandated to install blocks the silencer from being fitted correctly. So here's what you do. You just yank it off. Objection! I hear some of you current owners saying, yeah, you're right, it's not that easy. What I had to do was grab some needle nose pliers, wrap them around the orange plug while carefully making sure I wasn't touching paint, held the barrel and not the bulk of the gun unlike how I'm demonstrating now, and simultaneously twisted and pulled until it gave way. Do I recommend doing this?
No.
It worked for me. I can't guarantee it'll work for everyone, and this is my way of saying, if you try this to get a better looking Megatron and end up breaking it, well, you've been warned, because I'm surprised that I didn't break it. Thankfully, all I got was glue residue and nothing more. I can live with this. So with that out of the way, attach the silencer barrel combination. It is a tight connection, so be careful of paint chips. As for the end of the barrel, same story with the pliers and the twisting pulling motion. Be careful, don't be all He-Man with the thing, and you should have a legally questionable toy weapon accessory in no time. Scope slots and slides into position on top of the gun. And finally, the stock goes plus adapter down and comes up from the bottom in between the handle groove. There we go. The full kit and caboodle. Here's a fun fact for you. While this is based off his cartoon representation, which it itself is based off the G1 Megatron toy, did you know that the original incarnation of this toy, labeled the MC-12 Gun Robo, was actually based off the gun that was featured in the 1964 show The Man from U.N.C.L.E.? I found this interesting, mainly because aside from the Walther P-38 itself, the full Megatron package, or what was then known as the U.N.C.L.E. Special used by Napoleon Solo, was never actually a real firearm that anybody could buy. And up until recently, with fans of the 60s show making their own custom versions, there was no way to get this weapon in its real working form. So, Fans of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., a piece of your culture lives on as part of the Transformers history. This also might explain as to why there's no Walther licensing on this box. That, and it might be harder to import having that. But I'm sticking with the altered form losing the licensing, seeing as how that was Sunstreaker's reasoning behind taking so long to be made. So what can you do with this gun mode really? Well, not much. As far as skill goes, Frankenseeker, Masterpiece Soundwave, Bumblebee trying to fire the thing, and the skill everyone was waiting for, how does he fare next to MP-10 in vehicle mode? Well, I'd say that's a perfect representation of our two Cybertronian faction leaders. As everyone remembers in the cartoon, Megatron is supposed to be a 3-story handgun, only suitable for the likes of Trypticon, and, in some case-by-case episodes, Devastator. Otherwise, you can run around your house like an idiot with a pistol and pretend to shoot things. It only really works when someone wants to be idiot alongside you, otherwise you're the only one getting shot by your wife. Fun fact, the pistol also doubles as a zapper if you're in the mood for duck hunting. If solo duck hunting bores you, slap on some of those sweet accessories and up the ante. The silencer definitely makes hunting 2 ducks that much easier. And the scope is perfect for those times PETA comes sniffing around, and you want to shake them off your trail by claiming you only play the clay shooting game. So yeah, it's a toy gun, it doesn't take much imagination to think of things that can be done with it, but as far as animation goes, it really only serves one purpose. And that's green screening a transformation. And by way of segue, robot mode. What a figure to behold! I will admit, it took some getting used to. I had a Poleon for 2 years and sold him just shortly before getting this guy. In fact, that huge sale was how I was able to get MP-36 in the first place. So, yeah, definitely took some getting used to. And I'll get into why later. But for now, just, wow, what a dynamic figure! Like the joke I said at the beginning is all that you need to know is that he's amazing? Yeah, that's kinda all you need to know. But if you want to know why, well, let's get into it. First things first, MP-36 is the first masterpiece of its kind to feature a voice chip. This chip has multiple settings for multiple audio clips. Also included is a switch to select different types of clips, and finally a speaker located at the viewing side of the scope. I've tried to clean up the audio as best as I could, but given that the speaker inside is no bigger than a dime, don't expect amazing levels of quality pumping out of the cannon even after editing. So the first setting, set all the way to the front, is just your standard G1 blaster sound effect. Nothing really to sneeze at, but it's neat. If you slide this to the middle position, the chip comes preloaded with 5 of Megatron's voice samples as voiced by Seizo Kato. These 5 clips are as follows. And finally, setting 3, or all the way back, gives us transformation sound effects, both up and down. So that's pretty cool. As for articulation, head is on a ball joint for spinny spin action, but the fact that it's on a post means he gets to look at you sideways and even stretch his neck hydraulics. He can look up amazingly far, and down not so much, unless you use a separate joint that has nothing to do with transformation whatsoever, but was literally installed just so Megatron can look down further. I mean, dang, that's commitment to articulation right there. Shoulder joints are actually inside the chest and ratcheted, which means he can do the full 90. However, those are not the only shoulder joints. For the ones in the arm, if you rotate the arm forward, allow the arm itself to stretch out if you move the back kibble. And even that's not all, as there's a joint put in specifically for further arm articulation. This one allows the arms to go forward, allowing even more poseability options up front. Shoulder rotation is actually inside the shoulder and is also ratcheted. What's cool about the ratcheting is it's stiff enough to hold any pose, unlike a Poleon, and yet there's 32 stop points. Like, that's impressive that there are that many points to stop, the ratchet doesn't feel stiff, and yet it can hold weight. Nuts. Bicep swivel, which also works pretty great if you feel like rotating the right bicep to have the fusion cannon on top. Single joint elbow, but it still moves more than 90 degrees due to parts disappearing into themselves, which also means his elbows don't look like this when they bend. Amazing. Wrist swivel, but it's not all the way, which I'm okay with. It essentially goes wherever my own wrist is able to, which is fine by me. Last 3 fingers are on their own separate hinge with a single knuckle joint for further movement. Same with the index finger. And the thumb is a single hinge. No ball joint at all. Which, in all reality, is all the articulation you really need. Anything beyond that as far as animation goes is just a want, really. And given KFC's history and how easy these hands come off, I expect this to be upgraded one day if it really bothers you that much. As for me, meh. These hands are great and I don't intend on replacing them anytime soon. waist rotation, and something really surprising, an ab crunch. And it's not even a joint that has anything to do with transformation. It's like the designers wanted a specific pose, so they put in the extra work to make it possible. This sort of looks like it works, but from some angles it does look a wee bit wonky. If you can get past that though, awesome. Hip flaps move out, crotch flaps move up to give you all the leg articulation, ratcheted legs go forward pretty far, knee is a single ratcheted joint, but also has been designed in such a way so that it still bends really far, like well past 90. Thigh rotation, but only so much before certain parts back there start banging into each other, and oh man, would you look at that leg spread. Good gravy, that's a split. Ratcheted ankles. Do you hear that, X-Trans bots? This guy will not be falling over anytime soon, and thank goodness. Not only that, but they have a crazy ankle tilt too. Leg articulation alone is pretty dang perfect for those times you just want to give a falcon knee to someone. So much wind-up. So much satisfaction. Other articulation shown here is the fact that the barrel can be rotated around and underslung just like the G1 toy. I'm on the fence about this feature. On the one hand, it's pretty cool that they put in the effort to make this G1 inspired. On the other hand, though, it's got a bit of a problem. In order to get it to fire forward, it has to point down. In order for it to point level, it has to be at the side. This is because of the molding on the back that is only on that side, and it's only there to be accurate at the P-38 gun mode, which I don't entirely understand why that was such a big deal considering lack of licensing. I'm not going to pretend like I'm all annoyed and upset about this, considering I'm never really going to be using this feature much. It's merely just a cool reference to the original toy, but not an overly important one, even in the designer's eyes apparently. It's not like an armpit gun is overly impressive or anything. Has this ever happened to you? You're giving a motivating speech. You go to raise your arm to rally your troops and boom! The reaction animating out of your armpit gun could kill a small army. Well, introducing new Clinical Strength Sentinel Prime. Now with odor-killing Crimzeeks that target and destroy bad smell circuits. So, that next time you rally your troops, the only thing you'll have to worry about is what to name the planet after you conquer it. Other poses he can pull off is this unimpressed sitting pose while lesser Autobots beg for their lives. Or how about the famous superhero pose? And while we're here, he can also do that thing he did with Rumble's power chip rectifier. Ready? Hit it, Soundwave!
Let's get ready to rumble!
Alrighty then, size comparison. Important comparisons first. World of Nintendo Waluigi and standard 3x3 Rubik's Cube. MP-13 Soundwave and MP-11 Starscream. Yes, model version. This isn't exactly a scale I'm fond of. While, yes, the scales of the Decepticons did fluctuate a lot during the show, I just feel Starscream wasn't exactly this short. Like, I can't imagine that the guy trying to steal your job is one of the shortest figures around. Not counting Reflector of the Insecticons. Oh well, what can you do? There are certain scenes in the show where this kind of scale actually does happen, so it's not like the current height we see is out of the question, it's just not my favorite. Long story short, the scale is technically accurate, though I'm not entirely happy about the other Decepticons being this short next to Megatron. Other sizes include Rumble, Ravage, Frenzy, and Laserbeak, and those guys are tiny, so they get a pass. As for the third-party side of the Decepticons, Cloud9's Shock Blast is looking quite savvy. I thought this guy was big to begin with, so the fact that MP-36 is still taller than this is pretty astounding. I personally like the size difference between these two, and therefore I'm happy with my Cloud9 purchase. TFC Hercules if anyone is interested, obviously not to scale, and also making their appearance are Bad Cube's cartoon-accurate Insecticons, which I think scale really well. On the Autobot side of things, Bumble Miss Prime, Bad Cube Sun Surge, and MP-12 Sideswipe. Ironhide and Inferno. Great for those moments you just feel like recreating some of that sweet heroic nonsense. And now the scale you've all been waiting for. MP-01 Optimus Prime. Just kidding. MP-01 and MP-05 were about the same height, and I don't have MP-05, so this gives you a rough idea of what we're up against. The real scale we're all keen on seeing is MP-36 versus MP-10. And it's okay. A lot of people are all freaking out at how great it is that Megatron is slightly taller, but to be perfectly honest, I did prefer the height of Apollyon in this regard. Actually, compared to the rest of the Decepticons, I did much prefer Apollyon. Not to mention the proportions of the Apollyon were kinda nice. Compared to Prime here, just look at those legs. The knees are way higher than Prime's. Megatron's crotch starts where Prime's waist ends. It's all kinda weird looking when you get the two of them together. Then you get this tiny, tiny stomach with a squashed chest, and, well, that's Megatron for you. It did take some getting used to when I first pulled him out of the box, and I am warming up to the proportions. especially when Megatron's all by himself, but standing next to Prime kinda highlights what exactly I find fault about the design. It's not bad, it's just odd looking, though it is accurate. And well, to be fair, having this guy for a straight month now, going back to previous animations of the Polyon, makes you do a double take and subsequently say, I was okay with that? So again, nothing wrong with the proportions per se, they definitely look good, but the fact that when you compare it to other figures whom I felt had better proportions in the humanoid figure department, makes them look a little wonky. Yeah, there's some minor griping on my part, but it in no way is a deal breaker for me. As far as height goes, Megatron is officially a 4 head taller. It's not exactly my jam, but I've gotten over it already. Putting them a little distance apart from each other, though, you don't even notice, which, hey, that's fine by me. And that finally brings us to probably the best part, accessories. First off, Optimus got that axe that he had during the battle on the dam for episode 2 of season 1 of G1. So naturally, Megatron will send his cannon away, remove his hand from either side, and pull out a little purple nozzle that will slot right where the wrist was. This will then attach to a chain, and then a ball for an energy flail. A fictional weapon, mind you, that according to my research was an incredibly impractical and dangerous idea for a weapon that has never been found to be legitimate. And well, quite frankly, I can see why. Especially more so with it being energy and all. The whole point of a flail was the weight at the end of the chain you were swinging around. And well, what kind of inertia could you really get going with this thing? Technicalities aside, the problem with the current setup is that it's only good for display and serves no purpose for animating unless you plan on choking Optimus with a loose bit of chain. You know we don't breathe air down our necks, right? Oh, shoot. However, what you can do is exchange the plastic chain for a jointed one. This is for separate hinge joints that have also curved molded segments to really get those dynamic poses going, and even a little bit of animation fun if you so fancy. If the ball and chain strikes you as the sort of weapon that is impractical and you don't like it, you can ditch it entirely for Megatron to join the elusive Hand Cannon Society. Among this underground group, you might see the likes of Shockwave, Inferno, Mega Man, Samus, and many more. You know what I think is cool? The hands on this figure aren't secured by way of mushroom peg or just a rivet, forcing you to transform the hand to slot the flail onto some arbitrary joint that barely fits it anyway. No, the hands are riveted to a small plate that slots into the arm. This does make for some parts forming, yes, but I don't mind it. Because, man, it looks so good. And it'll also make it so much easier when other third-party companies want to try their hand at making arm-mounted accessories, such as other types of arm cannons like the G1 Chrome thing, even more articulate hands should you be so ungrateful that Takara gave you pinned fingers that do just about everything you need them to, and other such attachments that could be added. Other accessories he comes with? Faceplates! He has 4 in total. Stern, shouting, laughing, and one I swear is a take on my face with its messed up eyebrow. Don't think I didn't see it, Takara. I know you love me. If nothing else, these make for great faces if you want to do Decepticon theater arts. Otherwise, these work by taking the face and slotting it upwards off the head, and then, check this out, even more movie-inspired detail. From that time we saw Unicron take him down to the molecular level and rebuild him into Galvatron. It's the little things like this that make the figure what it is. Moving on. Slot the new face on and you're ready to go shouting at people. Like, what if Ultra Magnus and Megatron are watching Howard the Duck, and they came across that one scene? Oh, you know the scene I'm talking about. Or what if they're mad at each other and just want a shouting match? What if Megatron hasn't seen his long-lost rival in some time and wants to give him a hug for old time's sake? What if he's watching TV on his off days and it happens to be a comedy? But then Starscream's all like, "You're a lazy idiot!" And Megatron's all like, "The heck was that for?" And Starscream's all like, "If I were leader, I'd be coming up with a new plan that wouldn't fail this time." And then Megatron's all like, "Oh yeah? Well, flail this!" Clobbers him with his impractical flail, and then Megatron would be satisfied with his lame pun, because that's the kind of narcissist that he would be. All these scenarios and more are possible with 3 epic faceplates I'm so happy he came with. The 4th one he came with kinda works on his own, but definitely works better with the other accessory he came with. To apply it, take off the original chest plate, and be careful doing so because I've already loosened one of the clips that hold it together, and then marvel at the hidden chest detail. Okay, enough marveling. Apply the beat-up chest plate that's obviously included as a reference to the movie when there was an epic battle. Other accessories it comes with to complete the reference is a lightsaber and discarded blaster, with an interchangeable piece that doubles as a laser beam and a gunshot. Honestly can't say I'm a fan of the bulbous bottom, but what can you do? This makes for some great scene recreations like Optimus getting stabbed, or that time when Megatron used the next Prime as a hostage body shield, Or how about when Soundwave had to carry him to safety because he got punched and that did him in, and then Rumble had to carry the fusion cannon? Given the fact that the damaged face is smiling, it doesn't exactly seem like the kind of face that would work for betting on whether you still function or not. Another accessory is the remote control helmet seen in the episode A Prime Problem, that he used to infiltrate Autobot headquarters without any foresight into the situation, such as researching Autobot names, working Teletran, memorizing floor plans, and so forth. This plan will never work!
Shut up, Starscream! This is a great plan! Bumblebee, can you help me with Teletran 1? Bumblebee? Bumblebee, I'm talking to you!
You talking to me, Prime?
Who else would I be talking to? Now, Bumblebee, I can't figure out why Teletran 1 isn't working correctly, and...
Alert! Alert! Proximity alarm. Someone is outside the Ark.
All the Autobots are here and accounted for, so it isn't one of us.
Optimus Prime! It's a Decepticon imposter! When he walks through that door, shoot him down before he can answer any questions. Does someone want to tell me why I was abandoned in a ditch on the battlefield? I can come back another time if that's...
Now hang on, a proton picking me. No one's shooting anybody till we can figure out which Prime is the real Prime. I'll just do a quick scan of Teletran. That should clear things up.
Quick scan reveals that both Optimus Primes are identical. Select full virus scan to...
Maybe you can do that at 3 a.m. if you remember to leave you on. We don't have that kind of time right now. Gee, Bumblebee, this is strange. I'm getting a bad feeling about this.
On October 5th, 1985, Optimus Prime went missing during battle for about 10 minutes. This Autobot was promptly found and returned with the other Autobots to the Volcano Underground. Today, an identical Prime has arrived, and together, they act as soldiers of fortune. If you're fighting Megatron, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the Prime Team.
Oh yeah, it's totally strange, and not in any way, shape, or form something awesome at all.
The key to Vector Sigma comes included in all its die-cast glory, though what I find interesting is it's not the same size as the one that comes with the Asia exclusive reissue of MP-10 that was also metallic gold. This isn't the biggest of issues at first. I mean, they're both roughly the same size. What could it matter, right? Well, it matters a lot, because only one of the keys actually fits the Disco Ball of Destiny, and that was kind of the whole point, wasn't it? Thanks to Skull Kidding for providing these accessories, by the way. Otherwise, this comparison wouldn't exist. And something else that wouldn't exist without him is this.
I would have waited an eternity for this.
To Unicron of this stupid gator! To Unicron of this stupid dog! And now finally the barrel and stock attachments. Well, obviously having their use in gun mode, they get their features here. First off, on Megatron, fold the barrel halfway down and then rotate it out. Then on the barrel, unfold the silencer bit out and flip out this little port. Then slide the barrel onto Megatron's back cannon and plug the accessory into the shoulder for a War Machine looking G1 referencing shoulder cannon that's pretty dang epic. For more epicness, throw on the fusion cannon at the end for a face gun that looks just as good, if not better, than whatever Lockdown has going on here. This is crazy, because, as I know, the shoulder cannon is G1 toy inspired. The face cannon is something entirely new as far as I know. Almost like it was just thrown in for the sake of it. As for the stand, split it apart at the base. On the other end, depress the button here and swing around the clip and then take the handles and swing them out. From there, take the barrel, slot this part into here, just like so. And here we have a cannon for him, except it's kinda too tall for him. So here's what we're gonna do. Ratchet the stand down at the base, ratchet it back at the halfway point, and then rotate the whole thing around. And then there we go. A whole other cannon for Megatron to use. If using the silencer half as a sight isn't to your liking, feel free to rotate the whole thing around and plug the fusion cannon up top to get some of that sweet, sweet G1 toy love going. Or even get creative and plug the fusion cannon up front just like the gun face for double the firepower. If G1 referencing cannons aren't your fancy, then just pop those handles away, spin that clip around, and then on Megatron, tell him to take a deep breath because he's getting a proctology exam. And why, you may ask? Well, it's none other than because the stock also doubles as an actual stand for aerial shots, like Superman flying and hovering and shooting. gather around your fellow secret cons, and then all of you can point and laugh at Soundwave for not having his own stand, seeing as how all the Decepticons can fly in Transformers whether it makes sense or not. So that about covers it for MP-36 Masterpiece Megatron. What a figure indeed that looks sharp, is super posable, and fits in right alongside your other Decepticons, official or otherwise. He's a figure that makes MP-10 feel like your average leader-class department store shelf item instead of the masterpiece name that he also bears. In fact, I would go as far as to say that Megatron sets a new standard for masterpiece, and unfortunately that standard comes with a price point. No, he's not the most I've ever spent on a toy. That claim to fame goes to TFC Hercules, but he is the most expensive masterpiece figure I've ever purchased, sitting at $230 shipped, with an extra $40 to release him from customs. Even after all that, I'd still say he's worth it. I mean, over the last half hour, you guys have seen just how much fun I've had with him, and that's no exaggeration. He is the most fun I've had animating a toy. He holds the poses so well. He's extremely photogenic, and the range of movement has easily exceeded any masterpiece figure to date. I mean, good grief, Pyrion, you might have a new contender for the best toy ever title. That's not to say he doesn't have flaws though, far from it. The panel lines in gun mode, the garbled mess of his back, and the fact that a lot of gun mode is made up of fake parts keep this figure from being a perfect toy. But a lot of those points don't even matter at this point, as they pale in comparison to all the excellence this character just sweats out of his pit cannon. No amount of Sentinel Prime could cover that up. Long story short, is he amazing? Yes. Is that all you really needed to know? Absolutely. And that's all I have to say about that. This has been the Lazy Eyebrow Reviewer.